Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of Glam Metal Gems. So this is a series where I want to take a deeper look into the genre itself and at bands and albums that, sort of slipped through the cracks, ran under the radar, that sort of stuff, and shine a light on these lost gems, hopefully bringing them to a wider audience, you guys out there. And you can search these things out and find them and, maybe get turned on to some new stuff at the same time and or just share in the great memory of these sort of lost bands that didn't do a whole lot out there, but put out some great, amazing albums. So we're going to jump into that here in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with Glam Metal Gems. This one, episode number 5. So there are 4 previous episodes that you can go back and check out. We're going to start off just doing these alphabetical, no particular rhyme or reason for the order other than that, giving me something a little bit to go on here. So we're kicking off with a Norwegian rock band, Sons of Angels, their self-titled release from 1990. There's the back side of that. Beautiful. Always loved the artwork of this one here. Is their debut studio album. And the big hit that came off of it that you might know is the song Cowgirl. It's just good straight up rock and roll, if you will. I wouldn't even put it so much into that glam metal sound, but that's how it was categorized and it came out during that era. And as we all know, there's so many bands that came out and there's some that are straight into that, type and sound and so forth. And there's other ones that are sort of on the boundaries and whatnot. But this band here came out during that time frame, so we're talking about them. Now, here's the thing that makes this band cool, in my opinion, beyond just good music. I always like to give you guys a little something more about these things. So it featured the band featured the vocalist who just went by the name Solly, S-O-L-L-I. Now, he was featured on other albums, doing other things after this band folded at the time. And let's see, first thing up was, let me see if I can get this right. I think I got this, Psycho Motel. And if you don't recognize this band, this was an offshoot project from Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden fame. So came out in 1995. He does the first album with the band, this one here called State of Mind. They do make a second album, but it's with a different vocalist. So he does that, which is kind of cool. But the one that I actually really liked that he did was 21 Guns. This album here, Nothing's Real, it was their second album. So he comes in replacing the first vocalist. And of course, 21 Guns featuring Scott Gorham of Thin Lizzy. So you've got Sons of Angels, but this guy goes on and does a couple more things. And they do make one more album. So if you only ever knew of this one and you really enjoyed it, they have this one here, Slumber with the Lion, which is really good. Came out in 2001. Again, another one you just ran under the radar, hardly ever gets talked about, but Sons of Angels, I highly recommend them. Very good, just straight rock and roll kind of music. Okay, next one up is a Philadelphia-based rock band, Surrender Dorothy, self-titled, 1992 this album came out. It's the debut and the only album by this band. Now, here's the connection to this. It featured 2 former members of guys from Tangier. And you may remember those guys having put out 2 really amazing albums. But before this one, 4 Winds, they did have an independent release from 1985. And on that album, which as far as I know is only available on vinyl, I've never found one on CD, and I am hunting one down if I can on vinyl. But that lineup had these 2 guys in it, Rocco Mazzella, if I'm saying that right, and Mike Cost. So Rocco played guitar, Mike Cost played bass, and those 2 guys would later form this group here. Now, when I bought this at the time, and this goes back to the days of buying a rock magazine, and in the back there were order forms for, online order, well, not online, mail-in order for, cool albums and stuff. So I'd call them up and it would say things like Surrender Dorothy, parentheses, members of Tangier. And me, when I was trying to collect everything from all these glam metal guys and stuff like that, and I only knew these 2 albums here, I ordered it. Then when I got it, and I said, wait a minute, there's nobody that matches up. This makes no sense to me. And I was bummed for many years about it until the internet. And then, of course, the internet led me to know that there was actually a vinyl album from '85. These guys come from that version of the band. But regardless, I came to really love this album for what it was without knowing that it had any guys that I knew from Tangier kind of a thing in it. And so I highly recommend, if you can track this down, it's what I would call an independent release or a self-released album that they tried to put out that never got picked up by a major label or anything because it came out, you know, in '92 when grunge had already broken and stuff like that. But it's so very good. So check out Surrender Dorothy if you can find this self-titled release. It is really good. Next one up, Canadian rock band Saints and Sinners, self-titled 1992 album. There's the guys on the back. I didn't know who this was. I saw this album cover and thought this has got to be one of the most awful album covers I've ever seen, and didn't do anything for me. And I flipped it over and I saw these guys here, and I immediately was like, okay, these guys totally are from that glam metal era. I'm going to pick this up and give it a shot. What I also noticed down here is that it was produced by Aldo Nova. So that, of course, drew me into it. What I later found out once I opened this up and started reading who was in the lineup and that sort of stuff was that it features Rick Hughes. He's a vocalist from the band Sword. This is not The Sword. This is the Canadian group called Sword, who put out 2 albums back in the '80s and only just recently reformed, putting out their 3rd album this past year in 2022. So you can go back and get some more Rick Hughes that way if you want to do. But what's also very cool about this is that not only does Aldo Nova produce it, and he does play on it, but he co-writes a lot of the songs on here. So if you want more Aldo Nova style music and that sort of stuff, this is a great way to get it. It's sort of like Aldo Nova's 4th album, Blood on the Bricks, that was co-written by John Bon Jovi, and so it has a very Bon Jovi feel to it. So whenever I'm thinking I want more Bon Jovi and I can't get enough of that, I go pull out the Aldo Nova album. When I want more Aldo Nova and I can't get that, I pull out Saints and Sinners. So, but I like all the connections and stuff like that. And there's a lot of fun going back and forth with those sort of things. Okay, we're going to move on to a Seattle rock band. And yes, Seattle did have rock bands long before it had grunge bands, and even at the same time it still had its rock scene going on. And so that goes to War Babies, their self-titled release from 1992. Yeah, a lot of these 1992, and I wasn't intending that when I grabbed them this go around, but case in point, there was a lot of great glam metal that still rode under the radar that was dropping in '91, '92, and even a bit that came out in '93. But this one here, 1992. So debut studio album, one and only that they did. It's actually formed in 1988 by Brad Sinsel from TKO. If you're not familiar with that band, their stuff has been reissued. They kind of ran under the radar as well, but they put out 3 albums, and so you can check that out. So if you were a fan like me and you loved this and you always wanted more, now while not as heavy as this is here, but you do get Brad's vocals. So I was very excited when I found out that he was part of a group called TKO, and I could go backwards. Always wish they made a 2nd album. They did not, though. And another thing, the band also featured drummer Richard Steverid, if I'm saying that right. Steverid, yeah, I think so. Fastbacks member, which was a Seattle punk band. They had punk. I mean, Seattle has a little bit of everything. I mean, a lot of these places did. LA, New York, stuff like that, all had multiple genres going on at one time. But you had Richard Steverid in there from Fastbacks. He also played with Three Fish, and that's where I knew him. I didn't actually know he was a member of the Fastbacks till years later. But I got this, and then, I don't know, it wasn't too long thereafter that Three Fish, which of course features Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam, that's the connection there. And I was like, wait a minute, I know that name, right? So I just really love how all of these different guys cross over doing different things like that. For me, it makes it far more interesting to be able to check this stuff out. Another cool thing about this group, War Babies, here is that the debut single that is so good, you got to check this song out if you've never heard it. Hang Me Up. It was co-written by Paul Stanley. That's something I only found out like a year or so ago. I don't know why. I mean, I probably read it back in the day. I don't know if it just never clicked with me. It was something I never remembered. Now I looked this up recently, or I was reading about it, and I read that and I said, what? You gotta be kidding me. And sure enough, that's what it says in the booklet, but I just never put that together on it. But great band, highly recommended. Just huge, big vocals from Brad Sinsel on this. Amazing guitar, cool production. Definitely recommend checking that out. I think out of all these things that I'm recommending today, if you don't know War Babies, this is the one to be going after. All right, but we're going to close out with one more here. Atlanta rock band Witness and their self-titled release. So this is their only album too. Real shame, because it's just so good top to bottom. Every track on this thing is amazing. The band's centered around its female vocalist Debbie Davis, and unfortunately, as far as I know, she didn't really go on to ever do anything. She might have done some solo stuff, but there's no real information out there about her. She didn't come from anywhere. What was the connection why I actually bought this, and you can read the names on the backside. I flipped this thing over, and at the bottom there we got Damon Johnson. Now at the time I bought it because of him, fell in love with the album for what it is, which is good, because I later found out he doesn't play on the album at all. In fact, it actually has mostly session musicians that are on this album. But I do want to point out that another key member of the group was Joey Huffman on keyboards, who played with Drivin' and Cryin' and would later go on to Brother Kane, like Damon Johnson. That was his band after this. So, now Joey Huffman does actually co-write some of the songs that are on here. Debbie Davis wrote 3. But it actually had songs from outside writers as well. Neil Schon of Journey, Michael Bolton wrote one on here. So this was really a project that was put together behind Debbie Davis, and unfortunately it didn't take off, so not much happened with it. Now, as far as who does play on the album, it's actually a who's who. So, okay, let's forget that Damon Johnson doesn't play on it, even though he's shown on it as a member. Who do we get? We get Steve Smith on drums from Journey, Neil Schon on guitar, Brad Gillis on guitar. So, you know, Journey and Night Ranger guitar players playing on this thing. Danny Chauncey also from 38 Special. So it was pretty cool who plays on this thing, and it sounds that way. So if you want an album that's got, you know, Journey, Night Ranger, and 38 Special guys on it, that sound with some amazing female vocals from Debbie Davis, this is for you. Go check this out. Highly recommend Witness. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We got some Sons of Angels, Surrender Dorothy, Saints and Sinners, War Babies, finish off by Witness. And of course, if you stick around to the end, you're going to see an actual photo of all of these. I know some of you guys were asking about that last time. So there you go, Glam Metal Gems number 5. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and certainly if you did, consider sharing this out on social media. Help spread the word both for my channel and these great bands. Help get their name out there to other people. And do check back. I'm going to be doing more episodes of this stuff as long as you guys stay interested in it. More will come. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.